The house was quiet in a way that felt heavy, like it was holding its breath. Emma stood in the bathroom with the door locked. The light too bright, the mirror too honest. She had turned on the faucet just to hear something other than her thoughts. Water ran, steady and clear, while her hands rested on the sink. She told herself she only needed a minute. Just 1 minute to feel normal again. She had arrived that afternoon, smiling when her cousin Laura hugged her, laughing at the right moments, saying all the expected things. Everyone thought she was fine. That was the problem. No one asked how she really felt anymore, and she had forgotten how to say it out loud. The bathroom was small but warm. A clean towel hung neatly on the rack. The smell of soap reminded her of simpler times, before her marriage ended, before her life split into a before and an after. She looked at her reflection and barely recognized the woman staring back. Her eyes looked tired, older than she felt inside. She pressed her lips together and breathed in slowly. Then came the knock. It wasn't loud. Just a gentle tap, like someone unsure if they should interrupt. Emma stiffened. Her first thought was panic. Had she been gone too long? Had she worried someone? Emma. A voice said through the door. She knew the voice right away. Daniel, her cousin's son. She swallowed and didn't answer at first. Her heart beat faster, not from fear, but from surprise. Daniel wasn't someone she expected at the door. He was polite, quiet, the kind of person who never pushed. She had barely spoken to him since arriving. Yet here he was. "Emma," he said again, still calm. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine," she said quickly, too quickly. Her voice sounded thin, even to her own ears. There was a pause. She expected his footsteps to fade, for him to walk away and leave her alone. Instead, she heard a soft movement near the door. "I just wanted to check," he said. "Dinner's almost ready." Another pause. "Then I left something for you." Before she could ask what he meant, she heard the quiet sound of paper sliding against the floor. A moment later, his footsteps moved away, slow and respectful. Emma stared at the door for a long second. Then she unlocked it and opened it just enough to see the floor. A neatly folded towel sat there, and on top of it, a small folded note. Her chest tightened. She picked them up and closed the door again, leaning back against it. Her hands trembled slightly as she unfolded the paper. The words were simple. Number. Long message. No questions. You don't always have to be strong alone. Emma read it twice, then a third time. Something inside her cracked open, quiet but deep. She hadn't realized how badly she needed to hear that. Not advice, not comfort, wrapped in long speeches. Just permission to stop holding everything together by herself. She pressed the note to her chest and closed her eyes. For a moment, the noise in her head faded. She felt seen in a way she hadn't felt in years. After a few minutes, she splashed cold water on her face and dried her hands with the towel Daniel had left. She smoothed her hair, straightened her sweater, and practiced a small smile. When she opened the door, the hallway was empty. Downstairs, voices floated up from the dining room. Laura was laughing. Someone clinked a glass. Life was moving on, steady and normal, as if nothing inside Emma had shifted. She walked down the stairs and joined them. Dinner passed easily enough. Emma sat at the table, answered questions about Boston, about work, about the weather. She laughed when she was supposed to, but every so often, she felt Daniel's eyes on her, not staring, not curious, just aware. When their eyes met, he gave her a small nod, like a quiet check-in. She nodded back. Daniel spoke about his job in Seattle, about long days and early mornings, about how the city felt both exciting and lonely. He talked about plans, about maybe moving again someday. Emma listened closely. There was a steadiness to him, a calm confidence that hadn't been there the last time she saw him. Back then, he had been a thin teenager with headphones always around his neck, more comfortable reading than talking. Now he spoke with care, choosing his words thoughtfully. Emma found herself surprised by how easy it was to listen to him. After dinner, people drifted into the living room. Someone turned on the TV, but no one really watched it. Emma slipped away to the window, looking out at the snow falling softly. Over the yard, the world outside looked quiet and clean, untouched. She felt tired, but not the heavy kind, more like the kind that comes after a long day of holding things in. Behind her, footsteps approached. "You okay?" Daniel asked, stopping a few feet away. She turned to face him. "Yes," she said, and this time it was true. "Thank you." For earlier, he shrugged slightly, a little embarrassed. "I didn't want to make things awkward." "You didn't," she said. "You were kind." He nodded, accepting that, then stepped back to give her space. "Good night, Emma." "Good night, Daniel." Later, alone in her guest room, Emma sat on the edge of the bed with the note in her hand. The room was quiet, the kind of quiet that usually made her thoughts louder. Tonight, it felt different, softer. She thought about how strange life was, how moments that seemed small could land so deeply, how a simple knock on a bathroom door could change the shape of an evening. She folded the note carefully and placed it in her bag, somewhere safe. As she turned off the light, she stared at the ceiling and felt a question rise in her mind, gentle, but persistent. When had she decided she had to face everything alone? The house settled around her, wood creaking softly, heat humming through the vents. Outside, the snow kept falling, slow and steady. Emma closed her eyes, unaware that this quiet moment, this unexpected kindness, was only the first step in something that would make her look at her life differently. And somewhere down the hall, Daniel lay awake too, staring at the dark, wondering why speaking up for once felt like the most important thing he had done all year. The next morning, Emma woke before the sun had fully risen. The house was wrapped in a calm silence, the kind that makes every small sound echo. She slipped out of bed quietly, careful not to wake anyone, and moved to the kitchen. Steam rose from the coffee pot, filling the room with a warm, comforting smell. Daniel was already there, dressed casually, sleeves rolled up, hands steady as he poured coffee into 2 mugs. The sight of him, so calm and familiar, made her pause for a moment. She hadn't expected to see him like this, not so grounded, not so aware, not so present. "Good morning," she said softly. He looked up, surprised, and smiled gently. "Morning," he replied. There was an unspoken understanding between them, a quiet acknowledgement that last night had shifted something. Neither spoke of the note in the bathroom, yet it lingered in the air like an invisible thread connecting them. Emma took a deep breath, feeling more open than she had in months. They sat at the small kitchen table, mugs warming their hands. Outside, snow continued to fall, each flake quiet and deliberate, covering the yard in white. Daniel spoke first, in a casual tone that somehow carried more weight than any speech she had heard in weeks. He talked about the city he worked in, the people he met, the long days that sometimes felt lonely despite the crowds. He mentioned moving to another state, soon, though he hadn't yet decided. Emma listened closely. There was something in the way he spoke thoughtful, reflective, that made her feel safe even when it reminded her of her own mistakes and losses. She shared a little too, about Boston, about her job, about the divorce she was still processing. She didn't go into all the details, but she let herself admit the loneliness that had been creeping in for months. Daniel didn't judge, he didn't tee off her cliches or quick fixes. He just listened, nodding when appropriate, asking gentle questions, and pausing to make sure she felt heard. The effect was profound. For the first time in a long time, Emma felt lighter, as though carrying her thoughts out loud instead of keeping them trapped inside made them easier to bear. After breakfast, Emma wandered into the living room, note tucked safely in her pocket. She looked around the house, noticing little details she hadn't paid attention to before: the way the sunlight hit the wooden floors, the quiet hum of the heating system, the soft rhythm of the snow falling outside. Daniel followed her, casually, leaning against the doorway. "I hope I didn't overstep yesterday," he said. His voice was quiet, careful, as though he wanted to ensure he hadn't intruded on her space. Emma shook her head. "No, you reminded me of something I forgot," she admitted. "I didn't realize I needed it until you showed me." Daniel's eyes softened. He didn't respond immediately, just watched her, giving her the space to continue. Emma took a deep breath and smiled faintly, feeling a warmth spread through her chest. They spent the rest of the morning together, talking about small, ordinary things. Emma described old memories from family gatherings, embarrassing stories from her childhood, and Daniel laughed softly, occasionally adding his own little anecdotes. There was no awkwardness, only a growing sense of connection. It wasn't romantic. In the conventional sense, it was something deeper. Trust and understanding that neither of them had anticipated. By midday, Emma found herself opening up even more. She admitted fears she had been holding on to, fears of starting over, fears of feeling lonely forever, fears of failing again. Daniel listened, never interrupting, never offering advice unless she asked. He only nodded, sometimes quietly saying, "I understand." That simple acknowledgement carried a weight she hadn't realized she craved. Later, as she prepared to leave for a walk in the snowy yard, Daniel handed her another folded note. Her hands trembled slightly as she unfolded it. The words were short, but meaningful. "You still have time. Don't let one ending define the rest." Emma's eyes filled with tears, though they were quiet and controlled. She felt a surge of hope, the kind that had been buried under months of self-doubt. Daniel smiled at her, a small, encouraging curve of his lips, and she returned the gesture, feeling gratitude stronger than she had in years. That afternoon, Emma wandered through the snow-covered yard alone, the note tucked into her pocket. Each step crunched softly under her boots, echoing in the stillness of the winter landscape. The cold air was sharp but invigorating, clearing her mind. She thought about her life, her choices, and the way small, unexpected moments could change everything. She thought about Daniel, his quiet attentiveness, his ability to make her feel seen. And she realized something important. Connection, even when unexpected, could heal wounds she hadn't known were so deep. When she returned inside, the house was calm again. Daniel was reading quietly on the couch. He looked up as she entered, offering a small nod and smile. There was a gentle understanding between them now, a silent agreement that what had begun yesterday wasn't fleeting. It was a beginning of something else, something steady, safe, and meaningful. Weeks later, back in Boston, Emma felt the impact of that visit in her daily life. She enrolled in a writing class she had always dreamed of taking, feeling a spark of creativity and confidence she hadn't experienced in years. She allowed herself to take small risks again, to reach out to friends, to accept invitations she would have declined before. Life felt lighter, more open, more promising. She occasionally thought of Daniel, remembering his quiet support and the small, thoughtful notes. She smiled at the memory, understanding now that the surprise in the bathroom wasn't just a moment, it was a turning point. It reminded her that she didn't have to face life alone, and that the right kind of connection could awaken strength and hope in ways she hadn't imagined. Months later, Emma met someone new. She wasn't searching, not really. She was living, open to possibilities, allowing herself to be seen and to feel again. She realized that the encounter with Daniel had done something subtle but profound. It reminded her that life could surprise her in the gentlest ways, and that even quiet moments of understanding could lead to profound personal growth. She often thought back to that quiet bathroom, the unexpected knock, and the words on the small note. It had been a simple gesture, yet it had opened her heart and mind to new possibilities. And while her story with Daniel remained one of family and deep trust, the impact of that moment had reshaped the way she approached life and love. Emma finally understood that endings weren't final. Moments, even small ones, could shift everything. Connection, kindness, understanding, they were powerful forces that could awaken hope, even in hearts that had almost stopped believing. And that realization stayed with her. guiding her gently through the days that followed, reminding her that life was always full of quiet surprises worth noticing. The visit had ended, but its lessons stayed, quietly changing her, helping her move forward, helping her feel that, even after heartbreak, life still held moments of warmth, understanding, and subtle transformative magic.